Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Bladensburg Town Council Work Session for Monday, November 14th, 2022. Thank you for joining. We're now called to order. At this time, I'll call for a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Moved by Councilmember Brown. Is there a second?
I'll second. Okay.
Seconded by Councilmember Blunt. And is there any discussion?
There wasn't.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, Councilmember Blunt, did you want to ask for the amendment to include the senior gala here for discussion?
Yes, please. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. And I'm sorry, Councilmember Rout, you have.
Yeah, there were two items. There was the gala and there was something else.
Yeah, ARPA is already on the second agenda. So we can include the conversation about nonprofits and businesses.
Okay.
It's already on the next meeting agenda.
Got it.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further edits or additions? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion to approve I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. At this time, we'll move forward with the approval of work session minutes for the October 3rd work session. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Moved by Councilmember Rout. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember McBride. Any edits or corrections? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. At this time, we were scheduled to move into an appearance by Mrs. Ferguson. Let me just check. Mr. Gray, do we have anyone in the waiting room? Is Mrs. Ferguson there? Because I don't see her in the Zoom room, if you will. If she isn't there, then I would recommend we move forward with the next appearance. And then Mr. Charnovich, if you're able to give her a quick call or text her and just let her know to give us about 25 minutes before joining, because I do recall she had another meeting tonight as well.
Do we have any?
Thank you, Mayor. I can do that.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Gray, just to confirm, do you see anyone in the waiting room? Okay, that is a no, he does not. So if we could move to the next item under appearances, which is for Mr. Sam Parker of Amen Trust. He is a board member. And the discussion for tonight is regarding the Bostwick House buttress. And so, Mr. Parker, we'll turn it over to you, or Mr. Charnovich, did you want to give any introductory remarks before I turn it over to Mr. Parker?
Sure, Mayor James, I can do that. Just a quick synopsis on this topic. It's my understanding that the Bostwick House buttress has been in disrepair now for, I'm not quite sure how long it has been. I think it's been in disrepair since before I even started with Bladensburg, which was about a year ago. And the Amen Trust have been working on going to bid with an architect to do some repair work on the buttress. And within the last couple of months, they had received the bids for the buttress. I actually sat in on the bid review call with members of the Amen Trust and the architect to review the bids that were submitted. And it's my understanding, for various reasons, that the bids came in higher, much higher than I think was originally anticipated. So Mr. Parker, on behalf of the Amen Trust, wanted to attend tonight's meeting to discuss the concept of what it would take to ask the town to consider helping pay the cost of the buttress repair. So with that, I don't want to put any words in Mr. Parker's mouth, but I can turn it over to Sam. Thanks for coming, Sam.
Sure. Thanks for giving me the time to talk about this. I wanted to put it in a bigger perspective to get the total understanding of where we are, where we're trying to go, and why we're in this particular situation. The Amen Trust, as you may or may not know, is a nonprofit trust, and we've been working to help restore, maintain, and develop historic sites in and around the town of Bladensburg. We've been around for a number of years and worked on a number of specific projects in the town of Bladensburg. But over the last, I guess, 4 or 5 years, we had entered into an agreement with the town to specifically help in the restoration of Boswick, and with the ultimate goal of totally renovating the house and the grounds for a community use, also ultimately to some adaptive reuse. But in starting the process, what we wanted to do was to look at some of the safety issues around the property, and those necessary improvements that had to be done in order to at least hold some stability of stabilization in the building. So in I think it was in 2017, we wrote a joint grant with the town to restore the front porch, and also to deal with the buttress, which was destroyed during a severe windstorm, probably back in 2012. It's really been that long. And to go through the necessary, not only the physical restoration, but because it's a historic property, you have to go through all the approvals by the Maryland Historical Trust and by the county Historic Preservation Commission in order to get the appropriate approvals. So that initial grant process was a total of $175,000 to do the porch and to work on the buttress. We finished the porch, we restored the porch. The buttress was more complicated because it includes some structural integrity of the south wall, which the buttress was helping to hold up. And so we had to do a number of things, which included bracing the entire south wall before we could start any work, and also to stabilize that particular wall so no additional damage was done. We had to also do a historical documentation of how the buttress worked and how it was built. So we had Dr. Linebaugh from the University of Maryland to deconstruct the buttress brick by brick, and also to document everything about the physical nature of that structure. So this all had to be done before then. So we finished that. We've paid for the restoration of the porch. We've paid for the deconstruction of the buttress, and also for the temporary iron brace that's on the wall. And we have expended most of the $175,000. And that $175,000 came from Maryland Heritage Area Authority, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Historic Grant Program, some money from the town, some cash money from Amen Trust, some cash money from Prince George's Heritage. That's one set of grants, but there is one additional thing that we have to do to close out that grant. And this is a requirement of the Maryland Historical Trust to do archaeology associated with the rebuilding of the buttress, putting the buttress back exactly as it was. So we still have to finish that one piece before we close out that series of grants. The next thing that logically followed that was to actually rebuild the buttress. And that's complicated too, in the sense that we had to get approval again from the Maryland Historical Trust and Parking Planning as to how that was going to be done. What the structural engineer was going to do, how was it going to be rebuilt, using as much of the original brick as possible to put it back exactly as it was. And needless to say, historic preservation, once it's finished, is very beautiful, but it's a very laborious process getting there. And that was a second grant that we got from the Maryland Historical Trust, specifically just to rebuild the buttress, according to the requirements of the Maryland Historical Trust. We got a grant for $76,000 to pay for that. And that was the original estimate for rebuilding that buttress when we first started out. So that's why we applied for that particular amount of money. Needless to say, we've gone through all of these over the past 2.5 years, the pandemic and all the things associated with that, the cost of materials, inflation, everything. We were required by the state to do a formal RFP, had to advertise it in the Washington Post. We put it out to bid, and that's what Rich said, that he was part of that process. We got back 3 bids that ranged from $149,000 up to $400,000+. Prices were just astronomical and double what we had anticipated paying for the process for the rebuilding. So at this point in time, we did select the lowest bidder. That lowest bidder was the Maryland Historical Trust. A staff person also sat in on that bid process and agreed with the selection. We have not signed a contract with the contractor because, again, we only have $76,000. And and so the question was, how then do we find the extra money? And that's where we have come to the town to help support the difference. I don't know if you sent got a copy of the budget that I sent out, which explains the earlier grants, the costs associated with that, the additional costs, cash requirements of the grant. Now, one particular thing with the first set of grants that did the porch and the deconstruction of the buttress, it was a 100% match. So for the $87,000 that we originally got from the first 2 grants, we had to match that money. And that's how we got the total of $175,000. The $76,000 that we got to rebuild is not a match. We don't technically have to match, but because of the cost associated with rebuilding it, we are looking for a match for that amount from the town. There are some additional costs associated with that project that I've included in that, and that's a contingency of 10% of the construction cost, which is about $15,000. And I included that contingency because one of the things that we are not totally sure about is how much of the original brick that was saved, every piece of brick that was possibly deconstructed was saved with the potential of using that brick to rebuild it. We don't know really what the quality of that brick is. We've had some people look at it and it's not the best quality. Doesn't have structural integrity. Some of it can be used just for facing. So there may be a need to look for additional new brick, which may increase the cost somewhat, increase our cost somewhat. So just as an insurance piece, I did add that contingency on top of the additional cash that we were looking for. And remember, I said that the last thing we need to do is the archaeology, which cost, we have a bid for that. We've had a bid for that quite a while, and that work has been approved by the state as to how they're going to do it, the extent of it. And that's, that cost of that is $19,280. That money, what we're trying to do is that money, there is money in the final payment of that first grant. The state was holding back 25% of their funds, 80-some thousand, that they pay once we totally complete the project and file our final report. We may need to pay the vendor for that archaeology before we are reimbursed on that money. So there is enough money to totally repay the cost of the archaeology, but we may need to, once they finish, pay that amount. We're looking at alternatives, which may mean to try to get the state to say they'll pay the money with an invoice as opposed to actually having a canceled check. But we aren't sure about that particular piece. So if I add the 19,000, that's would be reimbursed totally 100%, plus the additional amount needed to complete the total reconstruction, we need an additional cash amount of, where did I put it? I wrote it down somewhere in this place, the number, but it's about $100,000, a little over 100,000, I believe. Rich, I sent you that. Do you have that total figure in front of you? I thought I printed it out, but I didn't have it. I can add it. I can add the two quickly. That's all.
Look, Sam, Mr. Parker, it looks like the spreadsheet you had sent me, if you include the archaeology, I think it's 97,268 plus the 19,280 for the archaeology. That sound right?
Right. It's I'm sorry. It's $116,548, of which $19,280 would be paid back.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Parker, for the overview. And also thank you to Amen Trust for really being a partner with helping us with the preservation of Bostwick House, because it is a priceless asset and it is valuable to our community and our town's history. I definitely understand the position that you're in with the cost of materials going up, because we're seeing that across industries in terms of food, gas, building materials. And I think what's unique here is the fact that we can't just go to Lowe's and purchase a 2x4 to put on that property. I mean, this is a historic site, as you mentioned before. The whole process of deconstructing and then reconstructing really has to be followed to the letter and with the proper materials, which those materials are critical to the success of the overall project. So I do understand the 19K. If we are amenable and putting that up front, we would be able to be reimbursed from the 20% of the final grant payment that would come back if we're able to front that. And that would be for the archaeological contractor, which the requirements are the requirements. I mean, we can't argue with historic preservation to say we are advocating to skip that step. So I appreciate you taking the time to lay this out, but want to open it up to the council for any questions or comments for Mr. Parker.
This is Councilmember Rout. Mayor James, want to speak?
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Rout.
I'm glad Miss Sue Ellen Ferguson is on because I do have a technicality question. I see in a correspondence after review of the council meeting packet, the work session meeting packet, that we were talking about putting it out for bid if it is approved by the council. My question to our town attorney is that if the council saw fit to approve the total cost of $116 and some odd $1,000, could we do that by vote, which does not violate our town's procurement policy? Because we are a united effort, if it does, if we do take it up for a vote and it is passed, could we direct our town administrator to be able to pay for the two items because the time is of the essence to preserve the building that is in dire repair?
Councilmember Rout, I just want to clarify. So the question or the statement regarding the procurement policy and having the council discuss the RFP process, that was for the project manager. So
Manager.
that would be separate from the ask tonight. The ask tonight is specifically regarding that grant funding.
Right, but my question is still, this is saying it's substantive, it's the same. My question is, would we have to put it out for bid since it's over the allotted amount that the town administrator will be able to authorize?
So Ms. Ferguson, I know you probably don't have the materials in front of you, but do you understand Councilmember Rout's question?
I think so, and I have your code here. I'm gonna see if I can take a look quickly and can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Okay. Take a look clearly. At most jurisdictions, there's the ability to override, and I believe yours has that too, but I do want to double check. So I should be able to answer you in just a minute.
Okay, so we'll give her a moment to dig that up. I was also trying to find the charter because I thought there was language in there also, Mrs. Ferguson, where if it is a time-sensitive situation, we can forego the normal RFP process and make that decision as a body. But sorry, it's hard trying to navigate the Zoom and the search on the town website at the same time.
I do want to add that we were required to follow MHT's procurement process, which was, the getting it out publicly, reviewing the bids, having a panel to discuss the bids. So we did follow their process, which was fairly exact.
And that many times that is what a government is allowed, or council is allowed to do. If someone else has gone out on a full bid process that is similar to yours and is bringing you a price that is the result of that process, and you can use that too. Like I said, it's gonna just take me a minute. I apologize.
No worries, Mrs. Ferguson.
With that
And-
response, Mayor, I want to withdraw my question.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Rout. And Mrs. Ferguson, Did you catch that? So
I
we
did.
save you.
We'll just confirm that a little bit later just to make sure anyway, but yes, I understand.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Any other, oh, I do see your hand. Councilmember Brown?
Thanks, Mayor.
ahead.
Any time. Huh? Oh, no, I was just asking, what is the time frame? Is there a time frame for that, Ms. Parker?
We did, the formal bid process is over over a month ago. And we do have an architect that was helping us prepare the bid documents and oversee all that. And we've kind of gone over technically the time period, but there's been some conversation with the contractor. They really aren't in the rush at this moment. They were looking for, start sometime after the first of the year. But we're just worried that we're in this peculiar position where the price could easily go up. And if they started to go up on the price, we'd have to decide whether or not we wanted to go up back out for bid. So it's still holding at the moment,
Right.
but the longer it goes, the iffier it gets.
Yeah, and then we're coming upon the cold weather and maybe inclement weather and, those kinds of things that I'm sure, are taken into consideration. And then also the grant, the one that's for the reimbursement, is there a time frame around it, $19,280 for that reimbursement?
We have gotten extensions, and our latest extension gives us until December of 2023.
Oh, December 2023?
Right, so we don't really have a problem with losing the grants or anything like that. And they've been very, very amenable as long as we show progress, because everybody's had the same issues, especially going through the pandemic area. So we aren't out there by ourselves when it comes to extensions. That's the latest one we have.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, so mine is mainly around timelines.
Great. Thank you for those questions, Councilmember Brown.
Thank you.
Just want to make sure I go around the virtual room. Councilmember Blunt. Okay, you're good. Councilmember McBride, any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of our path forward for funding Mr. Charnovich and Mr. Tonelli, really it's a question for you in terms of a recommendation for covering the gap. I know in looking at the budget and where we are as of the end of October, it doesn't appear we have enough to cover it under our building maintenance line item. But I know that, of course, we have ARPA funding, which can be used for capital projects such as this. But just wanted to see from a staff perspective, if you had any recommendations.
I'll go first. I mean, ARPA, of course, will be my first go-to for anything that's not budgeted or anything, because that's what the ARPA funds are for, to supplant anything in the, in your operating fund. Once we get the final numbers, we'll know Sam, when the bid process and everything. I mean, we'll know by the time it washes out, we'll have a better idea where we are with our own current funds in case there's like a surplus or, unused budget line items. We can move items first out of our general fund, to reallocate the budget amendment, or if it's not there, we just do a budget amendment through the ARPA funds. So good news is we have ARPA funding. So that's for timeliness. This follows, it's good timing that we're doing it now. And it's obviously very neat. As Sam said, we started on this back in 2017, actually even way before that, actually when the buttress went down in the derecho. So, but that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Tonelli. Councilmember Rao, I see your hand. Sorry if I missed you earlier. I just noticed it was.
No, you didn't. I just
Okay.
raised it.
Okay.
But, that's what I was going to, I wanted to make a comment to my colleagues. I remember Mr. Tonelli coming to us last time we started talking about ARPA, when, you know, the federal government is really looking at where is our burn rate and are we even using what we have? And I do think it's behoove of us to use what we have as it relates to ARPA if we can, you know, just because we never know the different changes with appropriations and how things go. I mean, I've seen monies that's not earmarked that have been taken back. So I would really encourage us to, if this is something, if this is our pleasure, take it out of ARPA. Because like Mr. Tonelli said, I support what he said, it is what it's there for. And this project it needs to come to a rest so that we can continue to move forward so that it could be safe, so we could use the building. Like right now, it's just, I mean, we can't even use it to even like post, you know, open it up to the public or anything. So I just want you guys to think about that.
Thank you, Councilmember Rao. I will say it is stable. When they took down the bricks, the iron beams that are there, they are providing stabilization, as Mr. Parker was explaining, but I do hear your point. It's not being utilized to its fullest potential because we are still underway with this long-term project, and totally agree with utilizing the ARPA funds. The question that I was raising was because of the expediency with locking in the prices, if the council's amenable, because we are talking about using the ARPA funds, I recommend we, in the next meeting, go ahead and vote on this so we can proceed, because my worry is waiting 2 months and now the cost of the price of materials, the price of materials has increased yet again. And I'd hate to see us have to come back to the table because we now have to put in another $10,000 or $15,000. Councilmember Brown, I see your hand. Or was that earlier?
No, I took it down, put it back up. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks for
Okay.
that. And in terms of, I do agree with using the ARPA funding, but looking at the time frame, because this is November, then you know, if we come back to another meeting, that's going to be in December. What does that look like in terms of trying to get that portion started before the end of this 2022, and then after that that archaeological piece, after that part has been completed, then you know, what's the next step? What other funding is going to be needed for further restoration? And yes. So that's so.
Mr. Parker, do you mind answering just to the best of your awareness what the timeline would look like if we're able to approve funding tonight in terms of the work being done?
The archaeology you're right, has to be done first. And that's going to take 6 to 8 weeks. That's the earliest, that's the latest I've heard from the archaeologists. And that's when I said the contractor was looking to start sometime next year. So what we were trying to do is 2 things. One is get the archaeology work done. That has to be done no matter what, whether the work is done end of this year or next year, whenever, it has to be done. And so if we can get that out of the way, we can complete the first group of grants, file the final report, close out that, get the remaining money, and that's done. You know, that's finished. And then we can if we lock in the contractor, I'm not really concerned for them to start at the end of this year. I'm just concerned about locking in the contract and then setting a date with them of when it's best for them to start. But if I can get the archaeology out the way, that starts to open up the time frame of working with the contractor, saying that'll be finished by then. Now we can set a firm date for when you can start.
But we are concerned about material costs too, right?
Yes, the biggest material cost is going to be metal, because we got approval to put a infrastructure behind the buttress that's metal, and the cost of the brick. Other than those are the two main things the costs will go up. Most of the other requirements are not extraordinary kinds of materials, but those are the two things that could go up. Now, for example, if if we sign the contract, the contractor can start ordering and allocating, putting firm bids for those materials, because we know we need them. But you can't do that until we sign the contract.
And Mr. Parker, that's where I was, just trying to hint that having that agreement lets the contractor know we're wanting to move forward, we're committed. And so that way they can start locking in things. Not that the work will begin immediately, because we understand that probably won't be until January from your introduction, but at least we're taking steps to get prepared with the contractor while the archaeologist is doing their part of the puzzle. But we have come to the end of our time for this item, and I do appreciate everyone just really participating, throwing all the questions and ideas out there so we could arrive at the best solution. And I think we're there. There sounds like consensus for utilizing ARPA funds to bridge this gap. And so, Mr. Parker, thank you for laying things out for us and just talking everyone through the process. So we will follow, or Mr. Charnovich will follow back up with you in terms of next steps after tonight's council meeting, just to confirm the funds have been approved, and that way he can be in coordination with you for moving things along. We certainly don't want to hold it up or be a barrier in the process. So
Okay, thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
thank you. And thank you for coming on Friday. It was good seeing you.
Very much so. Very good. Very good program.
Thank you. And so we'll go take a step back to the previous item under appearances. Again, we're fortunate to have our legal counsel with us, Mrs. Sue Ellen Ferguson, and she's here to talk with us about the Comcast cable franchise agreement. So Mrs. Ferguson, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm sorry to have been a little bit late. Had a little bit of difficulty getting in to your meeting this evening, but finally was able to. So I'm here to talk to you about the proposed franchise agreement for Comcast. And believe it or not, this negotiation has been going on since 2012. It started 3 years before the franchise was to be over, because the franchise began in 1999 and was supposed to go to 2015. And so the cable companies are supposed to reach out and attempt to negotiate an agreement in the 3 years prior to the ending of the franchise agreement, which they did. And then when we did not reach an agreement, we all adopted, so long ago now, you won't even remember, we adopted ordinances that allowed you to continue in this franchise agreement until we were able to recommend a new agreement to you. In the end, based upon what has happened over time, that was probably a good idea. Or not a good idea, it wasn't done intentionally, but I don't think that it really was a problem for most of the jurisdictions, because the companies are trying to step back from the obligations that they had in the past. However, we have gotten to a place where, after a long time of discussing this, that we have a settlement agreement to cover the INET, and we have a franchise agreement to recommend to you. It is one that the county is also recommending. And the negotiating team that represented all the municipalities who all worked together. Comcast agreed to do this because it was also in their interest to be able to talk to all of us at the same time. It was in your interest to do it because it gave you the benefit of having all the other jurisdictions with you in this negotiation. And so you have a lot more power together than you do separately. So is there a way for me to get the, be able to share a screen for a second?
Yes, Mr. Gray can upgrade your, I guess, settings to a presenter.
Okay,
And then you'll see the share your screen at the bottom with the little arrow.
yes. Okay. And I'm not seeing what I need yet. So I'm gonna-
Still nothing on your end?
No, I see some things, but here, I probably have too many things open. That's the problem. Here we go. All right, it should be coming up.
We can see something happening.
Good.
There you go.
Okay, there we go.
Very good, thank you. Right now, there's a franchise fee of 5%. That is going to continue. There's a 3% of gross revenue support for PEG. The PEG stands for Public, Educational, Governmental. Some of the jurisdictions received this before, some did not. But everyone will have it now, just like they have it with Verizon. You will still have a PEG channel, actually 3 standard definition PEG channels, and 1 HD channel, if you care to use that. They reference our iNet as the CNET, which gets kind of confusing in this franchise agreement will also. And it's because the iNet, when it started, was with the county and 17 municipalities. And then the rest of the municipalities in the county were connected by different fiber that the county owns. iNet fiber was originally owned by Comcast. The county fiber is the ICBN fiber. Once the ICBN fiber connected the rest of the municipalities, then the two systems connected. So now it's one big system. And so we're now going to be calling it going forward the CNET. Comcast and the other franchise holders do not want to support iNets anymore. And so we have this franchise is for 10 years, and we have procured the agreement for them to continue to support the iNet for another 10 years during this franchise. We are going to have to look at setting aside the funds to come up with an alternative system, assuming that we want to use this same system 10 years from now. And that is something that the iNet committee is looking at right now in its strategic plan. You now have free services in your government building drops for Comcast, and those will continue. There were a number of court cases that happened in the time that we were negotiating this franchise, and FCC, Federal Communication Act actions that actually reduced the rights of municipalities. However, they are going to be continuing for the free, the drops. They charge you for those, but we've gotten it defined so that it just means for the little extra cost that it would cost them to provide that to you from what they have to have out there to run a wire to your building anyway. So if they ever do charge for it, it should be fairly minimal. The build outs you're not so interested in because you are generally built out. So the funding should remain pretty much the same. And I'm going to stop the share now. we all know that the cable companies are making less money now because people are cutting the cord and using other streaming services, et cetera. So those are going to reduce over time just because they are. There's no way to control that. But for the time that the cable companies continue to exist and bring in funds, we have also gotten the definition of gross revenues against which you get your percentage to be enlarged. So there should be a little bit more money with that. The negotiating team had the benefit of a cable attorney, a nationwide cable attorney who also assisted this group. And he has reassured us, and I think Rich was on the phone the other day when we had the meeting, the meeting of all the municipalities, staff, that this is one of the richer franchises in the United States, between the franchise here and the franchise in Montgomery County. And so we are reassured in telling you that this is one of the better deals that you can get in the United States in your franchise agreement. So we're recommending it to you. As I said, there are some downsides to this. One of them is that we have to make plans as to what to do to replace the iNet fiber 10 years from now. But we are looking at that and trying to find a way to do it with the least possible amount of money. Running fiber is very expensive. But you should have some money in the bank too for PEG monies that you get. And you will also now have to pay a maintenance fee to use the iNet, but it will be spread out over all of the municipalities and the county as your other iNet costs are right now. And so I don't anticipate that your iNet contribution will go up that much for budgeting purposes. We're going to be asking the budget person, Steve Grove, to put together the numbers and let you know what the additional cost for the iNet maintenance will be. But it's capped. You know what it's going to be. It's a lot less than it would have been had you been trying to get these services from Comcast directly. We need to know from you, every building you have a drop-in, and every building you have a cable connection in from which you cablecast. And to confirm your iNet sites. Need these 3 things from you. And ask that you introduce the cable ordinance. I have been working with the county's version of the cable ordinance. I am just about done to have it conformed to the towns and the cities. There are a few provisions that are different. Just because the county is the county and has a cable commission, you don't have a cable commission, things of that nature. However, I reassure you that the contract itself, the contract terms, are the same for Bladensburg as they are for everyone else and for the county. Nobody gets a better deal because they're bigger or have more influence. So, and that's one of the good things about working together as a group. So that's about what I have to say about it. We will have you can hopefully introduce, we will have the franchise agreement, which is, 90 pages, unfortunately, or something of that, length, conformed to Bladensburg very shortly and able to be looked at by your residents so they will know what it is you're going to be adopting.
Thank you, Ms. Ferguson, for leading the effort. I know you've been at the forefront of this issue and the conversations with Comcast, and it hasn't been easy. And as you said, it's been over several years. The 3 items that you said we need to get, which of course include passing the ordinance, but also providing every building that has a drop and cable connection, and also you mentioned something about confirming the iNet site. I didn't hear a deadline for when we need to provide that information.
As soon as possible, because there are a couple of exhibits that are attached to this agreement that need to be filled out in full. Because once they're finalized, that's going to be what you are entitled to as a town. So I just want to make sure we have all your connections listed so that we don't leave anything out and have to amend it later. I would much prefer, in fact, it's the best thing to have it all listed right now. Yes.
Understood. Thank you for that. Councilmember Rao, you had a question?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor James. My concern is that hopefully in the next 3 to 5 years, we would have moved our town hall location to a larger space, facility. Maybe the address will change. What then is the process that we would take to put our new address? Does that preclude us from being covered by this agreement?
You do have a right to move. If you're within 300 feet, I believe it is, there's no additional charge for that. They'll just move it for you. College Park just did this very thing. They had their town hall, city hall torn down to the ground and then put back up again, and they got all reconnected. So you are able to do that and retain your INET and other connections. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question and answer. Councilmember Brown?
Thank you, Mayor James. Real quick, yes, also thank you, Ms. Ferguson, for your due diligence. One of the questions already answered, and that was with this 10-year contract, how would that impact a build out for a new town hall? The other one you answered, that was the timeline. Now, the other is that I don't see any cost. So it's like, oh, you know, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that, but I don't see any actual cost. Is that coming to us?
You will receive income. 5%, you will get a franchise fee of 5% of the gross revenue that they receive from the subscribers that are in your town. You get that now. And that will continue. You will also get 3%, a 3% PEG fee. That has limited uses. You're supposed to stockpile it if you're not using it for particular things. However, you will be allowed to use it for paying any maintenance fee that you'll be charged for the INET. So we have that as part of the agreement. The cost that you will have going out will be the additional cost for the maintenance. And like I said, that fee should be spread out over all the subscribers in the county. So your fee for that, just the way the other INET costs are right now. So your cost on that will be fairly low, and we'll be able to give numbers fairly soon so that you can have that for your budget. But you'll be able to pay it out of your PEG fees. So what you get is a total of 8% of gross revenues from Comcast.
Thank you, Mrs. Ferguson. Did that answer your question, Councilmember Brown?
For now, I mean, yes and no, but I'm fine. I'll let Mr. Vito go. He has.
Great. And I just want to highlight, we have 45 more minutes of content on the agenda and we're at 6:25. So we do need to pick up the pace a little bit. Mr. Tinelli?
I was about to say, any way to lower my hand after you just said that? So,
No.
I'm just kidding. Real quick, what Ms. Ferguson talked about, just a little bit more background. She said, as I've told you before during budgeting, as people cut the cord and everything, our franchise fees when I first started here were around like close to $80,000 a year from Comcast. I think they're down to like in the low 60s right now. So the fee revenue has gone down, and INET we pay about $9,000 per year for the service charges, and also the legal charges for the negotiations are pulled amongst all the municipalities too, which is great because that cost is spread out evenly or based on population, I believe. So I can't remember, but so all that's taken care of for us, thankfully. We don't have to get involved in directly. We have great representation there. So that's all.
Great, great. Councilmember Blunt, I'm sorry. This hand, it's like the same color as your cabinet behind there. So I apologize if your hand was up for a while.
I mean, that's okay. question, because I know our management company had us to do a survey with all the residents in the building asking what type of service do they have. And we've been doing that now for 3 weeks, and we sent them over a chart. But question, while we was doing it, is there going to be additional fees or costs that's going up with like Comcast, Verizon, any of that? Would it residents be charged more for their services?
They don't charge the city or towns, cities or towns.
Okay,
They do charge their subscribers and they have to give them notice. There are consumer protection rules as part of the franchise agreement, so they have to give prior notice before doing it. But as you know, nothing goes down.
I know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for all the questions and discussion points on this. And Mrs. Ferguson, again, thank you for joining us and for your patience. I know we had a lengthier discussion prior to this, but we had to tag you in there as well. So I appreciate you jumping in. But I know you have another meeting, so you're welcome to stay for as long as you want, or take off now, and we'll keep running on through the agenda. The next item under old business is just an update on the Thanksgiving dinner food distribution. So we're on schedule to have this take place Saturday at Bladensburg High School. The event starts at 12 noon and will end at 2. Of course, volunteers will be there hours earlier, setting up with volunteers received from the high schools locally, Victory Grace Center, as well as Now Foundation. Not sure if anyone had any specific questions or wanted to share any other updates about that, but registrations are coming in. I think all of us are pushing to make sure all the wards get the word and are signing up. And for those watching, if you are not in need, if you know of neighbors in Bladensburg who are in need of a nice Thanksgiving meal, please encourage them to sign up. If you have senior neighbors who don't really know how to sign up on the computer, just if you could do it for them, or have them call town hall, and one of our friendly staff members can help them get signed up. And in cases where we have residents, of course, who have a challenge with transportation, if the need is that we need to drop the Thanksgiving basket off, if you could just call town hall and make that request, that would be helpful to us as well. And that number is 301-927-7048. So if there are no other questions on that, I'll keep moving, because there's quite a few things under new business that we need to get to. So seeing
Excuse me,
Councilmember Brown.
just real quick, because I know we have a whole lot on the agenda here that we're trying to get through. It's a lot on the agenda. Real quick, in terms of the senior buildings for the Thanksgiving, are we, some of the flyers are being distributed to the senior buildings, but are we also taking baskets to the senior building specifically for the ones who can't get out?
Correct, yes. And so Councilmember McBride offered to help lead up that effort for the senior buildings. So if you want to connect with her, if you're able to assist, that would be fantastic. Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you. All right, so we have completed old business and we're on to new business. Chief has been waiting patiently, and I think you're going to take us through items A, B, and C. So over to you, Chief.
Yes, ma'am. Good
Yeah,
afternoon.
excuse me, Chief, I'm sorry, you don't have 25 minutes, okay?
Oh, yeah. I'll be quick. Oh, yeah. So, good afternoon, Mayor, Council, colleagues, and community. As you guys know, on October the 10th, we had an unfortunate incident, officer-involved shooting. Two individuals were tampering with motor vehicles, and when officers arrived in the area, one of the suspects fled on foot. He was apprehended. Second suspect decided to enter into a stolen vehicle and try to run over the officers. In the process of that, he rammed one of the cruisers, which was a 2017 Ford Interceptor. And we had the insurance company come out and assess the significant damage, and he determined that the frame was bent on the vehicle, and he put the vehicle at a total loss. So I'm here tonight to ask the council for a replacement vehicle for that. We were notified on October 25th that that vehicle was in fact totaled, and the value of the damages were over $27,000, and the adjuster put the value of the cruiser at $15,075. So I am asking the council if they would consider replacing that vehicle. There was no fault of the officer. It was strictly the suspect's intent to escape, and in the process, run over an officer and damage our vehicles without any consideration of life or property. So I'm asking the council if you guys would consider replacing that vehicle that was lost. It was a 2017, and we, obviously we in 2022. They have stopped production on the 2022s and sent over a quote for the 2023. Usually we pay $35,000 per vehicle, but the 2023s are slightly higher, and we are part of the state contract for those that don't know. So that means we get our cruisers at a discounted rate. So the cruisers are now, they are $44,395. I had the vendor send over the quote. And then it's about $20,000 to outfit the cruisers with the light sirens and all the equipment that goes inside of it. So with that, I will leave that. Any questions for me?
Yes, thank you,
Thank you,
Chief
Chief, for
Collins.
that overview. Councilmember Rout.
Thank you, Mayor James. My question is does the vehicle that we have in our fleet, does it come in a hybrid option or a totally plug-in option? I'm just saying with the new charging station coming and how the motor industry is moving to hybrid and or total EV. So I just wanted to know.
The hybrids, yes, they do come in hybrid. The hybrids are, if not the same, maybe slightly higher because it's a hybrid. But the total electric vehicles, I'm not sure. I don't have enough research on it to say how it would function, being used as a police vehicle at this point. That means the emergency lights, drawing down the power, how long that will last, because we work 12-hour shifts. So would they also have to dock the vehicle for, a few hours to recharge it? I don't have that information on the battery life at this point, but I can definitely research that and provide it to the council. But a hybrid vehicle, I used to drive a hybrid on my former place where I worked, and they, the battery go low, the engine kick in, and it saves on fuel and things like that. So I'll be more than happy to, move this to a hybrid type vehicle, because to be transparent, some agencies around us are using hybrid vehicles, but I don't know of anyone that using total electric police cars and running a 12-hour shift.
Councilmember Rout, thank you for that question. That was really appropriate, especially considering our construction has started for our charging stations. And I think it would be a great opportunity if at least we could do hybrid to lead by example and showing the town is being sustainable in future vehicle purchases. So again, thank you for that question. If there are no Councilmember Blunt.
Just two questions. Are the cameras that we have set up, are they making any money? And if they are, could we use any of that money to recoup on that vehicle as well?
Yes, we don't have that money now, but those cameras are doing well. In fact, as soon as shortly, we should start seeing those funds coming over. I believe Vito and the vendor Conduit, they had a discussion because there was some hiccup in the bank transfer. process of the funds. And I believe Vito and the rep have worked those issues out. So money will start coming in. I can tell you right now, those, we have cameras out on Kenworth Avenue now. And they have been producing about 100 tickets a day, 100 violations a day. So that money will be coming in, and I'm glad you brought that point up, Councilmember Blunt, because our goal in the end is to relieve the burden off of the town and the residents, and rely on our speed camera revenue, because that money can only be used for public safety, as we discussed that when we started this on the onset, that those funds will only be used for public safety. So that's
Thank
a
you,
great
Chief.
question, and I'm hoping like down the road, we have this, that we will have enough put away that we don't have these issues.
And so Chief, sticking with cameras, the next item is the police cameras in cars. You want to roll right into that?
Yes.
Excuse me, Mayor, I'm sorry. I did have my hand up. I'm sorry, just real
I'm
quick.
sorry, we
Chief.
were short on time, so I was trying to
That's
move it
okay. Well,
along.
we
Go ahead,
got a whole, I know,
Councilmember.
Mayor, we got a whole lot on the agenda.
Go
and
ahead.
Sue Ellen, she took more than 5 minutes when she only has 5 minutes on the agenda. But yeah, so Chief, real quick, as far as the insurance company, the car's totaled. So is there any money back from the insurance company?
Yes, yeah, that's what I
Okay,
said
that's it.
earlier,
Yeah,
that
the
the Blue Book
15,000.
value on it was $15,075, and that came from Legit, our insurance company. The
Okay,
vehicle
thank
was a
you.
27. They considered the value, the year, and the mileage.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
thank you.
Chief, do you mind moving forward, please, with the police cameras?
Yes. So with the police accountability and transparency, we're asking that all of our cars have in-car cameras installed in them, so that we can get the picture from A to Z on what happens when people are in our cruisers. These cameras can clear the officers. At the same time, it can hold officers accountable if they aren't acting appropriate. And on the House Bill 600, this is what they are recommending, having these. They've talked about the body cameras, and we have those. And now we're asking for the in-car cameras, because body camera only faces forward. It doesn't see what's going on in the back of the car, and it doesn't tell the whole story. So these cameras, they want to piggyback off of us. I'm saying they want to piggyback off the contract that we currently have for our body cameras. It's the same vendor. If you look on the front page, we've asked them to do the best that they can in savings, and $15,000 we will be saving per year, and we won't get billed until November 2023. And that will be the first payment that we will make, and hopefully we'll be in a good place with our speed cameras. So we're talking about $49,938.05. We have a total over the 5 years of $75,365, and we had to send this back to the vendor twice, and this is the best quote that they could come up with. And I appreciate them trying to work with us, because they understand the big picture of being transparent and telling the whole story about what's going on. So as soon as the officers turn on their lights, these cameras will come on. It'll tell us the speed. It'll tell us if they had the license siren on. It'll tell us the time they hit the brake. And obviously it'll have the audio and visual component as well.
Chief, thank you for that overview. Just a quick question. Did you also get any bids from any other vendor, or you just went back to our same provider?
Right. So we went with them because we already have their platform. So we're just adding to it. So it doesn't make sense to get a new server and have to connect with a new vendor when we have this one. We just plug in. It's the same operating system. You're just adding another camera. Instead of body worn camera, you add an in-car camera.
Great, thank you for that. Any questions from the council? Thank you so much. Chief, one more, police mobile camera trailers.
Yes. So the Mobile Pro system camera is what we looked at before. We looked at a couple other vendors as well, but this one does exactly what we want for, God forbid we have another shutdown of the city. This one has the PA, the public announcement system. This one has the panning camera, and it also has the spotlight. So this is the one that we could put in the park, and we could put in different locations. But the beauty of this one is a contractor that is getting ready to start construction down in Autumn Woods wants to partner with the town, and they're willing to pay $30,000 towards this camera. And when they're done with the renovations around in Autumn Woods, the camera belongs to the town, and they are going to provide us that in writing. So the only cost for us to get a $60,000 camera is $29,874, and they are willing to write the check tomorrow because they want to give us the camera. They understand, you know, keeping the community safe, and they told us to build the camera out with all the specs, and they are willing to write the check for $30,000. After they finish the renovations down in Autumnwood, the camera belongs to the town of Bladensburg.
That is fantastic news. Any questions or comments? I saw the applause from Councilmember Rout as you were giving that update, Chief. I don't know if you saw it.
I'm really excited. You know, I'm excited about that. I've been asking for that for a while. But I also wanted to know, Chief, do we know how long the construction will last?
So their construction project is estimated to last at least 2 years, or close to 2 years. And after that, that camera belongs to us.
Thank you.
Now, they are allowing us to move it around as well because they understand our hotspots. So we will be sharing the camera, but at the end of the construction project, it belongs to the town of Bladensburg.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Chief. So seeing no other hands, I'll keep rolling along. The next item on the agenda is the lobbyist services proposals. And in our packets, we received 2 proposals. One came from LA Perez Consulting, and then the other from High Street Strategies, I believe it was. Mr. Charnovich, did you want to do a quick overview?
Sure, Mayor. Thank you. So I solicited proposals from 5 total firms, and we received 2 total, as you mentioned, which I placed in your packets. At least from my time here, I was in a slightly different role, but I had worked with Perez Consulting right when I first started here last January with Bladensburg. I'm not familiar with the second firm, but from a cost perspective, it looked like the Perez Consulting firm was the more cost effective choice, and at least from my perspective, that's who we worked with last year.
Thank you, Mr. Charnovich, for getting the RFP out and making sure that we got it to a number of firms. I do agree. I think the price difference is significant. High Street is $57,180 on an annual basis, which breaks down to $47.65 per month, while LA Perez is at $24K, so roughly $2,000 a month. And we have had a good experience working with them. Of course, this was our first time, but they did deliver with 1.3 million in money for the town for capital projects. And so I do think it's an opportunity now that we kind of had the training wheels on the bicycle, so to speak, with them this past year to work more strategically with them in the coming year. But any further comments or questions in this regard? I know Councilmember Brown, you felt strongly about the proposals leaning in one direction, leaning in a direction.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think with LA Perez, I mean, they have demonstrated and they have delivered for us. And like you said, you know, with the training wheels, and they kind of already familiar with us and everything. So, but yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to acknowledge, I think now that we are giving them the full cycle, we do have to hold them accountable because there were some deliverables that we didn't get, such as the end of session report and some of the briefings. I think part of it was just because of staffing changes on our side. So I don't want to totally put that on them with not keeping on par and on task with that, but just generally speaking, I do think it worked out well for the town's interest. Mr. Charnovich?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I know we're short on time, but I did want to point one thing out to make sure everybody on the call was aware that as far as priorities go, when I sent the RFPs out, I did include rent stabilization in the appendices as as a top item on the priority list. I know it's a talked about topic recently. It's on the next council meeting agenda, in fact, for a brief update. But I did want to point that out, that it was added in there to include that topic in whatever lobbying is done in the next session.
Great, thank you for that update. And while you're unmuted, the next item, Human Resources Consultant, I believe Councilmember Brown had asked for this as an agenda item. So just wanted to see where you are with this project.
Oh, it's it's on my list of my RFP list is some I can't even control it anymore, but the RFP list is slightly out of control at the moment. So I think where I am is I just need to know. I know I've chatted with you, Mayor, too, about I think Mr. Tonelli has was going to check in with our payroll firm regarding getting a potential quote from them on services. But also, I think the short way to say it is I need some firms. If there are any recommended firms that you would like me to go out to bid for, to get them, I'm willing to go out to talk to anybody you need me to, and I'll send it out to whoever we need to, just similar like we did for the lobbying services. But I've been juggling a lot of priorities, RFP and otherwise, and I know that's an essential one we want to get moving forward, because it's also budgeted for this year. So that's where it is. The short is it's not too far along, but we can get it moving.
Perfect. And then council members, if you or any other colleagues from other municipalities have found success working with HR firms, if you wouldn't mind just sharing them with Mr. Charnovich so we can have a good pool of applicants, that would be super helpful. Councilmember Brown. Is it me, or can you guys hear her? Okay.
I think you're on.
I said thank you. I said that's what I was about to say. Some municipalities, and I'll send that information over to Mr. Chernovich.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our final item on the agenda is the senior gala. Councilmember Blunt.
The mayor, the town has been working on the senior gala for the senior residents in Bladensburg. It's coming along very well. The very first one, but well needed. Other than that, you have to register. I'm so used to working. You have to register to come to the gala, pretty much. Wear your Sunday's best, please. No jeans, but come dressed to impress. And again, this is senior gala, December the 8th, and information will be coming out tomorrow as we finalize everything that's going on. That's all I have to say. It's a big to do, but I said I was not going to do that today.
Okay.
I'm not senior only. Yes, I am.
And the theme is a winter wonderland. And Councilmember Blunt is working very hard to put this on and make it a special function for our seniors. So please look out for the flyer. It's coming soon once Councilmember Blunt says it's okay. No, Chief, you cannot participate. You're not a senior. I just saw your note.
I was like, what is that?
But we're hoping
You a senior, like you don't have a junior.
Right. Well, technically he does, but not in this context. So, but Chief will need the officers' help as well with some of the day of things to volunteer, and you do not have to have a date. The town will be your date, so that is no excuse. Please come And as Councilmember Blunt said, wear your Sunday best. If you want to throw on an evening gown, it's a gala, feel free. But again, we do want to just take this opportunity to brighten the spirits of our seniors around the holidays. Some of them have family members who look after them, but for some they don't. And so this may be the one thing that they're looking forward to over the holiday season. And we just want to lift their spirits and make them feel loved and appreciated by the community. So with that, we have come to the end of the agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
Moved by Councilmember Blunt. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Rout. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, let it be known by the saying of aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. We're adjourned. See you in 9 minutes.